Message from God. Embracing healing, hope, and a new beginning. Have you ever felt the weight of loneliness pressing on your heart, especially during the holiday season? In these moments, when the world seems to sparkle with joy, but your soul feels heavy, a message from God reaches out to you. It whispers of His unwavering love, His constant presence, and His promise of renewal. This message isn't just words. It's a lifeline for those seeking comfort, hope, and healing. As you journey through this story, you'll discover how God's love restores broken hearts, reignites dreams, and invites you into a life of purpose and peace. Stay with me. This message is for you. In the quiet corners of the human soul, where loneliness settles like a heavy mist, a message from God comes like a gentle whisper. I love you. Do not fear. I am with you. Have you ever felt that hollow ache of isolation, as if the world is moving joyfully around you, but you remain unseen? Perhaps it's during Christmas, a season meant to be bright and warm, when this feeling strikes hardest. This message from God is not just a fleeting reassurance. It's an invitation to step into His embrace, to recognize that even in the depths of solitude, His presence is unwavering. Imagine standing in a bustling city square, lights twinkling and carolers singing, yet feeling an invisible wall separating you from the joy around you. It's as if you're watching a vibrant painting but can't step into it. This is the paradox many face during seasons of togetherness. To be surrounded yet still alone. The pain of this disconnection is real, but it's not the final word. God's message from above reaches into this void, speaking softly yet powerfully. You are not forgotten. You are deeply loved. The story of Christmas itself is a testament to this love. Jesus, the Savior, was born in a humble manger, not in a grand palace. His arrival among shepherds and the lowly was God's way of saying, I choose to be with you, right where you are. Have you ever considered the humility of Christ's birth? That God's first home on earth was among animals, that His first visitors were shepherds. This was no accident. It was a declaration that His love knows no boundaries, that He comes close to those who feel furthest away. Loneliness often feels like being adrift on a vast, empty ocean, with no shore in sight. Yet, God's presence is the lighthouse, steady and guiding, calling you towards safety and rest. In the Bible, David speaks of this comfort. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. These words are not just poetic. They are a lifeline for the soul. They remind us that even in the darkest valleys of isolation, God walks beside us, holding us close. Think about a moment when you felt utterly alone. What if, in that very moment, God was whispering to your heart, do not fear, I am here, trust me. He invites us to imagine His hand reaching out, steady and firm, guiding us through the storm. To be lonely is to feel invisible, as if your existence goes unnoticed. But God sees you, every thought, every tear, every longing. His message from above is clear. I know you by name. I have counted every hair on your head. This level of care is not just intimate, it's transformative. It reminds us that we are not forgotten, that our lives matter deeply to the Creator of the universe. Consider the story of Hagar in the wilderness. Alone and desperate, she encountered God, who revealed Himself as El Roi, the God who sees. In her isolation, Hagar discovered a truth that would sustain her. She was not invisible to God. His watchful eye and compassionate heart were upon her. What would it mean for you to embrace this truth, that you are fully seen, fully known, and fully loved by God? What fears or doubts could you release, knowing that you are never out of His sight? Loneliness often convinces us that there's no way out, that we are stuck in a perpetual cycle of emptiness. But God's message from above offers a way forward. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. This is not just a promise of relief. It's an invitation to lay down the weight of isolation and step into the light of His presence. The first step is simple yet profound. Acknowledge His presence. Whisper a prayer, even if it's only, Lord, I need you. Imagine Him responding, I am here. I have always been here. I love you. In this exchange, the heavy chains of loneliness begin to loosen, replaced by the warm embrace of his love. Loneliness is a heavy burden, but it is not the end of the story. God's message from above reminds us that we are never truly alone. His presence surrounds us like a gentle shield, protecting, comforting, and guiding us. Through the story of Christ's humble birth, he demonstrates that his love reaches into the darkest places, bringing light and hope. As you reflect on these truths, consider this: what would it look like to let go of your loneliness and step into God's embrace? Whisper a prayer, type, "I trust you, Lord," as a declaration of faith, or simply rest in the knowledge that his love is constant and his presence is near. This is not just a story. It's your story, a divine invitation to rediscover the comfort and hope that only he can provide. Imagine for a moment the warmth of a fire on a cold winter night, its flickering glow wrapping you in comfort. This is what God's presence feels like, a constant source of light and warmth, a gift that never fades. His message from above reminds us, "I am with you always. My love for you is unending." In a world where love is often conditional and fleeting, God's love stands apart. It is steadfast, unwavering, and freely given. This love is the heart of Christmas, a reminder of the Savior who chose humility and closeness over grandeur and distance. The presence of God is not just an idea. It is a tangible reality that surrounds us. Consider the miracle of Jesus' birth, God stepping into humanity in the form of a vulnerable baby. This act was not one of power but of closeness, a declaration that he is Emmanuel, God with us. Through this act, God revealed that his presence is not reserved for the powerful or perfect. It is a gift for all, especially for the broken and weary. Have you ever wondered why the King of Kings would choose to be born in a manger rather than a palace? It was to show us that he is not distant but near, willing to enter our messiest moments to bring healing and hope. His message from above is clear. Let me fill your heart with joy, peace, and hope. My presence is all you need. In a world that often demands perfection for acceptance, God's love is refreshingly different. It is unconditional, embracing us as we are, with all our flaws and failures. He doesn't wait for us to clean ourselves up or prove our worth. Instead, he says, "Come as you are. Ta yêu con." My love is not based on what you do, but on who I am. The story of the prodigal son beautifully illustrates this love. Despite the son's mistakes and rebellion, the father runs to him with open arms, celebrating his return. This is how God welcomes us without hesitation, with a heart full of love and forgiveness. No matter how far we stray or how unworthy we feel, his love never diminishes. Do you feel unworthy of love today? Hear God's voice saying, "You are my child, and I love you beyond measure. Do not fear. Come to me, and let my love restore you." His arms are always open, ready to embrace you fully. God's presence is not just comforting, it is transformative. Imagine a barren tree in winter, its branches bare and lifeless. With the arrival of spring, it begins to bloom, its leaves returning, its flowers bursting forth in color. This is what happens when we allow God's presence to fill our hearts. He brings life to what feels lifeless, joy to what feels hopeless, and peace to what feels chaotic. Jesus said, "I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." This fullness of life is not about material abundance, but about a heart that overflows with hope and contentment, even in the face of challenges. His message from above invites us to experience this abundant life by resting in his presence and trusting in his love. What areas of your life feel barren or lifeless? What would it look like to invite God into those spaces, allowing him to bring renewal and hope? He whispers, "Do not fear. I am with you, and I will bring new life to your soul." God's love and presence are gifts, but like any gift, they must be received. He doesn't force his way into our lives. Instead, he gently invites us, saying, "Come to me. Let me fill your heart with my love and peace." This invitation is open to all, no matter where we are or what we've done. Consider the shepherds who were the first to hear of Jesus' birth. They were ordinary, even overlooked, yet God chose to reveal His glory to them. Their response was simple yet profound. They went to see the Savior, to draw near to the one who had come to be with them. This is the response God desires from us. Not perfection, but a willing heart that seeks Him. Will you accept this invitation today? Will you draw near to the God who loves you unconditionally and longs to fill your heart with His presence? Whisper a prayer, type, "I trust your love, Lord," as a declaration of faith, or simply sit in silence, letting His presence surround you. God's presence is the ultimate gift, a living reminder of His love and faithfulness. Through the humility of Jesus' birth, He showed us that His love is not distant but near, not conditional but boundless. His message from above is an invitation to let Him fill our hearts with joy, hope, and peace. As you reflect on these truths, consider this: what would it look like to fully embrace God's love and presence in your life? What burdens could you release, knowing that His love is unchanging? Rest in the knowledge that you are deeply loved, wholly known, and never alone. This is not just a story. It is a promise, a gift that transforms loneliness into joy and emptiness into abundance. Let His love fill your heart today and every day. In the intricate tapestry of creation, every thread has a purpose, every color a meaning. God's message from above assures us, "You are not here by accident. I have created you with love and intention. Your life has meaning, and your story matters." Yet, in the face of pain, loss, and the mundane challenges of life, it's easy to question our significance. We wonder if our existence is merely a fleeting moment in the vastness of time.
Một gốc whisper, "Ta yêu con."
Trust in me. Your life is part of my eternal design. Imagine a master weaver at work, skillfully threading colors into a breathtaking tapestry. Each thread, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, contributes to the overall beauty of the design. This is how God views each of us, as essential threads in the masterpiece of His creation. He has uniquely crafted every individual, imbuing our lives with purpose and significance. The Bible reminds us of this truth in Psalm 139. "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." These words are a powerful declaration of our value in God's eyes. We are not random accidents but intentional creations, designed to reflect His love and glory. Have you ever doubted your worth or purpose? God's message from above assures you, "You are fearfully and wonderfully made. I see you, I know you, and I have a plan for you." Trust that your life is part of His grand design. Life often brings moments of suffering that challenge our understanding of purpose. We experience loss, disappointment, and heartache, and we begin to question why such pain exists. Yet, God's message from above reminds us that even in the darkest moments, He is present, weaving our pain into something meaningful. The story of Joseph offers a profound example of this truth. Betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery, Joseph endured years of hardship and injustice. But through it all, he remained faithful, trusting in God's plan. In the end, God used Joseph's trials to save countless lives, turning what was meant for harm into good. What pain or challenges are you carrying today? Could they be part of a larger story that God is weaving for your good? He whispers, "Do not fear. I am with you. Trust that I am working all things together for your good." Our lives are not confined to the here and now. They echo through eternity. Imagine a pebble dropped into a still pond, its ripples extending far beyond the initial impact. This is how our actions, choices, and faith influence the world around us and beyond. God has created each of us with the capacity to make an eternal impact, to be a light in the lives of others. In the book of Ephesians, Paul writes, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." This verse is a reminder that our lives are not meaningless but are filled with opportunities to reflect God's love and purpose. What ripples are you creating in the world around you? How can you use your unique gifts and experiences to make a difference? God's message from above calls you to live intentionally, knowing that your life is part of His eternal plan. Even when we feel lost or uncertain about our purpose, God is always near, guiding us and reminding us of our value. Picture a shepherd tenderly leading his flock, ensuring that not one sheep is left behind. This is how God cares for us, patiently and lovingly guiding us toward the life He has prepared for us. In Jeremiah 29 verse 11, God declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." These words are not just promises. They are an invitation to trust in God's guidance, even when the path is unclear. Are you seeking direction or clarity in your life? God's message from above encourages you. Trust me, I have a plan for you, and I will lead you every step of the way. Lean into His guidance, and let His love light your path. Discovering purpose begins with trusting that your life is meaningful, no matter the circumstances. It's about surrendering your doubts to God and allowing Him to reveal the beauty of His plan. Whisper a prayer, type, "I trust your plan, Lord," as a declaration of faith, or simply rest in the assurance that your life has value. God's message from above is a reminder that you are part of something far greater than yourself. Your story is being woven into the tapestry of His creation, and every thread contributes to the beauty of His design. Will you trust Him with your life, your purpose, and your future? Every life is a masterpiece, crafted with love and intention by the Creator of the universe. Even in moments of pain and uncertainty, God's message from above assures us that our lives have value and purpose. He sees us, knows us, and invites us to trust in His plan. As you reflect on these truths, consider this: what steps can you take to embrace the purpose God has for you? What doubts or fears can you surrender to Him? Rest in the knowledge that your life is part of His eternal story, a story filled with hope, meaning, and divine love. This is not just a story. It is your story, written by the hand of the one who loves you more than you can imagine. Life often leaves us with wounds, hidden scars from mistakes, disappointments, and broken relationships. These wounds can weigh heavily on our hearts, making us feel unworthy or trapped by our past. But God's message from above is clear. I am the healer.
Ta yêu con.
I see your pain, and I will restore you. Do not fear. My forgiveness is greater than your failures. This message invites us to step into His grace, to let go of our burdens, and to embrace the healing and renewal He offers. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones, each one representing a past mistake, a painful memory, or a moment of regret. Over time, the weight becomes unbearable, yet we often convince ourselves that we must carry it alone. God, however, gently calls to us, saying, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." His invitation is not just to set the burden down, but to leave it with Him, trusting that He will carry it for us. Consider the story of the woman caught in adultery. Surrounded by accusers ready to condemn her, she must have felt the weight of her shame and fear crushing her. Yet, in that moment, Jesus spoke words of profound healing. "Neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin." In His mercy, He lifted her burden and set her free, showing her that forgiveness is always possible. What burdens are you carrying today? What would it look like to place them in God's hands, trusting Him to heal your heart and restore your peace? His message from above reminds you, do not fear. My grace is sufficient for you. Forgiveness is both a gift we receive and a gift we give. It is the key that unlocks the chains of bitterness and resentment, allowing us to walk in freedom. God's message from above reminds us, I have forgiven you, so you must also forgive. This is not always easy, especially when the wounds run deep, but it is through forgiveness that true healing begins. The story of Joseph illustrates this beautifully. After years of betrayal and suffering at the hands of his brothers, Joseph had every reason to hold on to anger. Yet, when he was reunited with them, he chose forgiveness. Through tears, he declared, "Do not be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." His forgiveness not only healed his relationships, but also brought restoration to his entire family. Who in your life needs your forgiveness? What pain or resentment can you release today? trusting that God will bring healing and peace. He whispers, "Let it go, and I will give you freedom. My love is greater than your pain." God's healing power extends beyond the individual to families and communities. Imagine a broken vase shattered into pieces. To the human eye, it seems beyond repair, but in the hands of a master craftsman, it can be restored to even greater beauty. This is what God does with broken families and relationships. He takes what seems irreparable and breathes new life into it. The Bible is filled with stories of restoration. One powerful example is the parable of the prodigal son. After squandering his inheritance and hitting rock bottom, the son returned home, expecting rejection. Instead, his father ran to him with open arms, celebrating his return and restoring him to his place in the family. This story is a vivid reminder of God's heart for healing and reconciliation. What relationships in your life need God's healing touch? What steps can you take to invite His presence into those spaces? God's message from above promises, "I will restore what is broken. Do not fear. Trust in my power to heal." When life's trials and disappointments extinguish our dreams, it's easy to believe that hope is lost. But God is in the business of rekindling what feels dead and forgotten. His message from above assures us, "I will breathe new life into your dreams. What seems impossible to you is possible with me." In the story of Sarah, her dream of having a child seemed impossible after years of waiting. Yet, God fulfilled His promise, giving her Isaac and turning her laughter of disbelief into joy. This is the God we serve, a God who brings beauty from ashes and joy from sorrow. What dreams have you let go of, believing they are beyond reach? What would it mean to trust God to revive them? He whispers, "Do not fear. I am the God of new beginnings. Your dreams are safe with me." Healing and forgiveness require action on our part. We must be willing to release the pain, the resentment, and the regrets we cling to and receive the grace and peace God offers. It is not always easy, but it is always worth it. God invites us to whisper a prayer, type, "I trust your healing, Lord," as a declaration of faith, or simply sit in stillness, allowing His presence to fill the broken places in our hearts. God's message from above is an invitation to experience the fullness of His healing and forgiveness. He reminds us, "You are not defined by your past. I have made you new. Trust in me, and I will restore your soul." Healing and forgiveness are gifts that transform lives, bringing freedom, peace, and renewal. God's message from above assures us that no wound is too deep for His touch, no mistake too great for His forgiveness. Through His grace, He restores what is broken and breathes new life into what seems lost. As you reflect on these truths, consider this: what burdens or wounds can you release to God today? What steps can you take to embrace the healing and forgiveness He offers? Rest in the knowledge that His love is boundless, His grace is sufficient, and His power to restore is limitless. This is not just a story. It is your story, a journey toward healing and renewal in the arms of the one who loves you unconditionally. Life often feels like a series of unfinished chapters, weighed down by the burdens of the past, regrets, mistakes, and the toxic environments that hold us back. But God's message from above is an invitation. Step into the new chapter one have written for you.
Ta yêu con.
Let go of the pain, and trust me to lead you into a life of hope and abundance. This call is not just about leaving the past behind. It's about embracing the freedom, joy, and purpose that God has prepared for you. Imagine carrying a heavy anchor while trying to move forward. It slows your steps, keeping you tied to the place you long to leave. This is what holding on to the past feels like. God's message from above reminds us, "You were not meant to live in the shadows of yesterday. Let me cut the chains that bind you and set you free." In the Bible, the story of Lot's wife offers a cautionary tale about looking back. As she and her family fled the destruction of Sodom, she turned back, unable to release the life she was leaving behind. In that moment, she lost the future God had prepared for her. This story reminds us that clinging to the past can keep us from stepping into the blessings of a new chapter. What parts of your past are holding you back? What would it feel like to release them, trusting God to lead you forward? He whispers, "Do not fear. I have already paid the price for your freedom. Step into the life I have for you." God's call to a new chapter often means stepping away from environments or relationships that drain your spirit. Toxicity can feel like a thorny vine, wrapping around you and stifling your growth. But God's message from above promises, "I will give you the strength to break free. Trust in me, and I will guide you to a place of peace and renewal." Consider the Israelites' journey out of Egypt. For years, they lived under oppression. Yet when God called them to freedom, their hearts wavered. They longed for the familiarity of Egypt, forgetting the promises of the land flowing with milk and honey. Still, God remained patient, leading them step by step into the freedom He had promised. Are there environments or relationships in your life that are holding you back? What would it look like to trust God to lead you out of them and into a place of growth and healing? He says, "Do not fear. I am with you every step of the way." God's call to a new chapter is not just about leaving, it's about entering. Picture a vast, fertile land, filled with possibilities and blessings, waiting for you to step into it. This is the promise God has for you, a future filled with hope, purpose, and abundance. In Jeremiah 29 verse 11, God declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." These words are not just a promise. They are an assurance that the new chapter He has prepared is good, overflowing with His blessings. What dreams or hopes have you set aside, believing they are out of reach? What would it mean to trust God to fulfill them in His timing? He whispers, "I have prepared a place for you, a life of abundance and joy. Step into it with faith." Stepping into a new chapter requires courage. It means trusting God's promises even when the path ahead seems uncertain. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, unknown land, holding onto God's hand as He leads you forward. This is what faith looks like, taking one step at a time, knowing He will guide and sustain you. The story of Joshua leading the Israelites into the promised land illustrates this courage. Though the journey was fraught with challenges, God's presence never wavered. He assured Joshua, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." This same promise is extended to us as we step into the new chapters God has written for our lives. What fears or doubts are holding you back from taking that step of faith? What would it mean to trust God fully, knowing that He walks beside you? His message from above assures you, "Do not fear. I am with you. Trust me to lead you into the life I have prepared for you." God's love and sacrifice have already paid the price for your freedom. He calls you to step boldly into this new chapter, leaving behind the chains of the past and embracing the life He has designed for you. Whisper a prayer, type, "I trust your plan, Lord," as a declaration of faith, or simply sit in stillness, allowing His presence to fill your heart with courage and hope. God's message from above is an invitation to freedom, renewal, and purpose. He says, "You are no longer bound by your past. I have made you new. Step into the life I have prepared for you." The call to a new chapter is one of hope, freedom, and transformation. God's message from above assures us that we are not defined by our past, but by His love and promises. He invites us to step out of the shadows, to leave behind the toxic and broken places, and to embrace the abundant life He has prepared. As you reflect on these truths, consider this: what steps can you take today to move into the new chapter God is calling you to? What fears or doubts can you surrender to Him, trusting in His guidance and love? Rest in the assurance that His plans for you are good. His love for you is endless, and His presence will never leave you. This is not just a story. It is your story, a journey into the life of freedom, purpose, and joy that God has written just for you. At the heart of this journey lies a simple yet profound truth. God's message from above is one of love, renewal, and hope. It is a reminder that no matter where we are or what burdens we carry, His presence is constant, His love is unconditional, and His plans for us are good. He whispers to our hearts, "Tayukan, do not fear. Trust in me. This message is not just comforting. It is transformative, calling us to step into a new chapter of life, free from the chains of the past and filled with the promise of a brighter future. Through each part of the story, we've seen how God's love meets us in our loneliness, how His healing restores what is broken, and how His guidance leads us into lives of purpose and abundance. He is the God who sees us, who forgives us, and who breathes new life into our dreams. His call is clear: to release the pain, fears, and doubts that hold us back, and to trust Him as we step forward into the life He has prepared. As you reflect on these truths, ask yourself, what burdens can I lay at God's feet today? What steps can I take to trust in His plan for my life? His love is a constant reminder that you are never alone, that your story matters, and that your future is filled with hope. This is not just a story, it is your story. It is the divine promise of a life renewed, a heart healed, and a purpose fulfilled. Trust in His love, embrace His presence, and step boldly into the extraordinary life He has written just for you. For His love is endless, His grace is sufficient, and His promise is unshakable.